There's a moment every skater knows. A moment when the city quietly tells you, you are not welcome here. Not with signs, not with rules, but with terrain. A hill you have avoided for years, a street that should connect two perfect spots, but it doesn't. A section of the city that you learn to skate around it, not through it. This video is about why that happened and why storm tracers exist. Not to replace skating, but to evolve it. I'm Daniel. I've spent the last 10 years building, breaking, rethinking what electric inline skates are and what they should be. And now we're gonna call them storm tracers. This video is chapter 1 of the Storm Tracer Manifesto. You don't need to watch them in order. Together, they explain why this movement exists at all. In chapter 0, the prologue, we defined what storm tracers are. Storm tracers are electric inline skates, but the name exists because that technical term wasn't enough. It only described the hardware, not the movement. Storm tracers combine the inline skate, carving, balancing, electric propulsion, electronic braking, and a different relationship with terrain, space, and speed. They are not just powered skates. They are a different way of moving through the city. And this chapter of the manifesto answers this question. Why did they need to exist? Why do storm tracers exist? So let me tell you a story that might feel familiar if you skated the city long enough. There's this straight hill, not curved, not gentle, straight, steep, and long. At the very bottom, there's a cross intersection, blind corners, and cars come from both sides. And the sidewalk isn't friendly either. Some have stairs, some have holes, and some are cracked. You have a stairway that is kind of awkward, the steps are crooked. Every skater knows this hill, right? If you skated long enough, you have one of these hills, at least one of those in your city. And you probably have thought of avoiding it. When that thought of avoiding the hill starts to creeping around your mind, that hill becomes a wall. It becomes a place that you are not allowed to exist with inline skates. It's too narrow to actually slalom down it. The asphalt is a little bit rough. It's not safe to go controlling the speed or you're gonna ruin your wheels. Also, if you fail to actually brake, you could die from a car running over you at the very bottom. So what do? You take your skates off and actually assume the humiliation of walking down? Do you go around it because maybe there's a gentler slope over there or a better path? So what actually happens is this becomes in your mind a place that you are not allowed to skate. You avoid a place. So if that hill is in your way, like you need to go over through there to work or to school, then suddenly you're not skating there anymore. You think about the hill and like, I'd rather bike over there because of the hill. It's so bad to go through there with inline skates. You might actually try to go 2 or 3 times and it's actually a lot of effort going down the hill. Maybe we even went sideways or worse yet, took off your skates, right? You would rather just give up on the hill completely. So slowly, without anyone actually speaking it out loud, the city shrinks. The places you are allowed to skate, they become fewer and fewer, not because we lost passion, but because the city quietly took space away from us. It isn't just one hill, it's thousands of them. Steep descents, crowded plazas, rough pavement, awkward transitions, really narrow paths, areas where stopping safely and controlling your speed is actually survival. So every skater that goes city skating, we have a map in our heads, right? That place is not good, that place is not fun, that place is too dangerous. So we make a map of where are we allowed to skate, where we're allowed to have fun. And over time, the more you know about your city, the feeling is that the map actually gets smaller. The city is oppressing us. Not because skating failed, but because the city evolved without us. No one was thinking about making the city better for skating. The problem was never that skating was too hard, and it was never about exercise versus motor propulsion. The real problem was access. Not ownership, not dominance, just access to flow. So every city there's space that no one claimed. Maybe they're too tight for bikes, too slow for cars, too technical for traditional skating. So that space is waiting for us. Storm Tracers exists to reopen that space, not by making skating easier, but by making it more possible and more fun while doing it. So when you have propulsion systems like motors on your wheels, narrow paths stop being claustrophobic. You can zip through them. You don't need like a wide area to keep pushing. So a lot of other spaces that felt uncomfortable now are very fun to play. So even those spaces that you have only like a bicycle tire as wide, we can go through them. And with an electronic braking, all those hills that you sometimes thought about being dangerous or avoided completely, they're now a lot of fun. Because you can descend in a controllable manner. You can rank it to your skill level. Even if you actually are able to do a parallel slide or a magic slide perfectly, sometimes the pavement, the asphalt, they don't allow that, right? You cannot parallel slide on a street full of holes, full of cracks. You shouldn't, at least. Also, very crowded areas like malls, plazas, or markets become skatable because you can control your speed perfectly, because you don't need wide, very wide path to actually push yourself forward. You're not going to step on someone else's foot. You're not going to clash onto someone else's. So suddenly the city stops being chopped into pieces anymore and it becomes whole again. It connects. Let's remember, this isn't about commuting. Transportation is just a side effect of freedom. And also, yes, you can enter spaces without locking your things outside to be stolen. You don't need to pay for parking or go very far away to find a park space or waste dozens of minutes looking for a parking spot. But that's not the point. The point is that skating becomes fun anywhere again. Storm Tracers don't exist to save time. They exist to save feeling. They let you keep your flow, your speed through corners, because you don't lose speed because of the motors when you're turning. Over cracks and bumps, you would lose speed as well. So you can keep going. You don't need to stop because of those. Sometimes I had to stop because I saw cracks, go back to actually gain some speed to go over them. And also, Storm Tracers allow you to go through places you wasn't able to before. Like I said, on curbs or benches, right? You couldn't push on top of those things. But now you can. Not because the city got easier, but because your relationship to it has changed. And this is chapter 1. In chapter 2, we're going to talk about how Storm Tracers are meant to be ridden. About flow, about technique, and why rough terrain suddenly becomes play instead of punishment. And in chapter 3, we're going to talk about what happens next. About groups, teams, and how all of these grow beyond individuals. Storm Tracers exist because skating didn't fail. Just hadn't reached every corner yet. We don't take the long way around anymore. We don't step off and give up space. We trace through it. And once you see the city that way, you never skated the same again. Let's storm the streets.